everyone, welcome to Sunday here at Pro Tour Shadows over Innistrad, coming to you live from the capital city of Spain, Madrid. Rich Hagan alongside Pro Tour historian Brian David Marshall, and from inside R&D at Wizards of the Coast, Ian Duke. Gentlemen, great to have you with us and great to have all of you with us. Gentlemen, we are set up for one of the great Pro Tour Sundays. Brian David Marshall, I introduced you as the historian. Just give us a sense, how good is this top 8?
It's one of the all-time great top 8s, and we won't know where it fully ranks until we see some of the young players in this Pro Tour have so much promise and have had so much early success that we really won't be able to fully know where this sits in its place in history for 4 or 5 years until, you know, we see what Steve Rubin and Andrea Mengucci and Seth Manfield, where their careers play out to.
Ian, we've got 8 tremendous players, but it's so rare that we can say this on a Pro Tour Sunday. We have 8 different tremendous decks. From R&D's perspective, you must be thrilled.
Oh yeah, just tremendous. I mean, we're in a brand new standard format. We just had a huge rotation with Khans of Tarkir and Fate Reforged rotating out. It's a brand new standard, a wide open field, and yeah, 8 different decks in the top 8 is not something that usually happens in the Pro Tour, so this is a really exciting moment. Yeah,
it's going to be a fantastic day. Let's mark your card for what you can expect from us over the next 8, 10 hours. We just want it to keep going on and on. Let's take our first look at your top 8 bracket here at Pro Tour Shadows over Innistrad. And we are going to begin with quarterfinals 1 and 2. That's the top half of the bracket. So that means that Jon Finkel will be playing against Andrea Mengucci and Luis Scott-Vargas will be playing against Shota Yasooka. Both of those matches will be in our feature match area together. We'll begin with game 1 of LSV against Shota, and then we will bounce back and forth, and between those 2 matches you will see both those matches decided. They're the best 3 out of 5, with sideboards BDM coming in after the second game in the set of 5.
Yeah, this is something new for this Pro Tour. You know, we've talked about it a lot. You know, at these events, you know, getting to play 4 games sideboarded would often give you a somewhat different result maybe than you would see during the Swiss, but you know, getting to play 2 games with your set deck and then 3 games sideboarded kind of evens things out a little bit.
Ian, philosophically, in the old style of sideboarding, if you had a good sideboard for the matchup, sideboarding after game 1 in the best 2 out of 3 was a really big deal.
That's right. In the old style, best out of 5, where only 1 game is pre-sideboard, greatly favors the deck that wants to move to sideboard, that wants to play post-sideboarded games. With this new system where the first 2 games are played pre-sideboard, it actually very closely approximates what you see in the Swiss. It slightly favors the deck that doesn't want to go to sideboarding, but only very slightly so.
All right, fantastic. So we'll see that in action. So why don't we get to our first 2 quarterfinals? As I say, game 1, the first thing we'll see live on camera, just a few minutes away, is game 1 of Luis Scott-Vargas against Shota Yasooka. Let's take a look at the career of Luis Scott-Vargas for you up on screen. There you see him, 33 years old now, closing in. He'll be over the $300,000 lifetime earnings mark, closing in on 500 lifetime pro points. This is his 7th Pro Tour top 8, 15 Grand Prix top 8s, 5 GP titles. And BDM, that Pro Tour Berlin title, there's plenty of comparisons to that in terms of the deck he's playing.
Well, there's certainly some overlap in terms of Elvish Visionaries.
Right.
And Cryptolith Rites really feels like a card that could have been in that Elves deck in Berlin, that ability to just turn all your creatures into mana and do some really degenerate things and just overwhelm your opponent on the board in the early turns of the game.
Why don't we take a look at Luis Scott-Vargas's 60-card deck list. This is what he brings to battle in the new standard. Ian, what have we got?
So this is the black-green Aristocrats deck, we're calling it, or the black-green Sacrifice if you want. And at its core, it's a deck built around Sacrifice synergy, so it has lots of token creatures, things like Blister Pod and Catacomb Sifter to make Eldrazi Scions. Lots of disposable creatures like Elvish Visionary was mentioned, and you're feeding these to your Nantuko Husk, making the Husk bigger, getting triggers off of Zolaport Cutthroat, and tying it all together, of course, is Collected Company, a card we've seen a lot this weekend, and one of the most powerful cards in Standard here, finding your different combo pieces.
I think one of the interesting things about this deck is it got an extra Nantuko Husk in Westvale Abbey.
That's right, yeah. Westvale Abbey, one of the new cards from Shadows over Innistrad, one of the most important cards in the deck. I was likening it to almost, it's like a free enchantment that you play that says, if you can find 5 extra mana and 5 extra creatures, this can win the game for you, right? It creates Ormondal, the Profane Prince, 9 power, hasty lifelinker, flies over for a ton of damage, can really end the game in an explosive way.
Certainly can. So that's Luis Scott-Vargas, but it takes 2 to tango. And on the other side of the table, one of the greats, it's Shota Yasooka. Let's take a look at him. This is his 3rd Pro Tour top 8. He has 19 GP top 8s. The Player of the Year from 2006, when he also won his Pro Tour. That was a team event in Charleston. He's now 31. Of course, he's in the Hall of Fame. Just last year got inducted, and he will be LSV's opponent. So let's take a look at his deck. He is playing Esper Dragons. BDM, what's going on here?
Well, the last time we saw Shota Yasooka in the top 8 of a Pro Tour, he was playing Esper Dragons. He's doing it again. This is his type of deck. Removal, counter magic, giant board dominating dragons. And the question coming into this Pro Tour was whether or not the mana for this deck, a lot of the key cards remained in the format, but a lot of the key pieces of the mana puzzle had rotated out. And, you know, a lot of people thought you couldn't build an Esper mana base. Shota Yasooka managed to figure one out and actually had a little circle of control players who all signed on to the deck. Shuhei, Paulo Vitor Damaderosa, and even Flock.
All right, let's take another look at our bracket for you. So that's LSV against Shota Yasooka. At exactly the same time, just coming up in a few minutes, we'll see Jon Finkel against Andrea Mengucci. So what can we say about Jon Finkel? Let's take a look. There you see, 37 years old, over 600 lifetime pro points. He will be past the $400,000 mark by the end of today. 16 Pro Tour top 8s is, of course, just insane. The Player of the Year in 1997, almost 20 years ago now, trying to find his 4th Pro Tour title. Brian, you've known him for as long as he's been playing the game. Is there anything you can say to explain to people who are coming fresh to the game and don't know about Jon?
Yeah, in the 20-year history of the Magic the Gathering Pro Tour, there have been exactly 100 Pro Tours. Of those 100 Pro Tours, Jon Finkel has played on Sunday in a top 8 in 18 of them. That's 18%. You have those 16 as, you know, in the regular Pro Tour. In the early days of the Pro Tour, there was something called the Juniors Pro Tour, and he played in 2 top 8s there. So that's 18% of all Pro Tours ever played, and he hasn't played in all of them. He's only played in 78. In 18 of them, he's made it to the top 8. He's the greatest of all time.
All right, let's see what the greatest of all time is bringing to the party, and it is Seasons Past Control. There's 2 copies of Seasons Past, but once you start going through the past seasons, turns out there's a lot going on. Ian, walk us through what this deck's trying to do.
This is one of the coolest decks that emerged this weekend. Awesome deck developed by Team Channel Fireball Pantheon. I know Huey Jensen and Reed Duke were instrumental in working on this deck as well. At its core, this deck is based around the card Seasons Past, a mythic rare from Shadows over Innistrad that brings back a card of each converted mana cost from your graveyard to your hand. So the rest of the deck is filled with creature removal spells at lots of different casting costs, disruptive elements like Transgress the Mind and Duress. And so you try to throw your opponent off balance and buy time, and when you land a Seasons Past, you're often bringing back 4, 5, 6 cards from your graveyard to your hand. You can do it all again. And the coolest thing about this deck is the interaction between Dark Petition and Seasons Past, because Seasons Past, as part of its effect, puts itself back on the bottom of your library. So then you can use Dark Petition to go search your library again for Seasons Past. And when you play the Seasons Past again, you can bring back the Dark Petition and just keep looping through your graveyard and your library. So it's very awesome to watch.
Yes, very awesome to watch, or if you prefer, filthy. That's Jon Finkel with Seasons Past Control. He will be playing against Andrea Mengucci, the 22-year-old from Italy. There you see him. He's smiling there. Doesn't take a lot to get him smiling and laughing. He's a great, great guy. guy. This is his second Pro Tour top 8, and he is, of course, part of Team Italy that so recently won the World Magic Cup. Silver Pro, that's going to skyrocket after today. So what is Mengucci playing? Well, he is playing Bant Company. And BDM, this is the one surviving copy of the deck that everyone knew about before the Pro Tour.
Yeah, this was in the few weekends between the pre-release and the Pro Tour. This was the dominant deck in the open circuit of standard tournaments. Last weekend at the Invitational and at the Open, there were dozens of this deck near the top of the standings, and it had a target on its back coming into the tournament. Andrea Mengucci with Team MTG Mint Card, really said, we don't care that there's a target on the back. We think this is the best deck. One way or the other, one of these decks might have been in the top 8, went right down to the wire for Mengucci yesterday.
Well, it is going to be 2 extraordinary quarterfinals coming up. We have Jon Finkel with Seasons Past Control against Andrea Mengucci with Bant Company. But first, it's game 1 with Black-Green Aristocrats, Luis Scott-Vargas, against Shota Yasooka with Esper Dragons. It's time for quarterfinals 1 and 2 of Pro Tour Shadows over Innistrad.
Hello and welcome to coverage of Pro Tour Shadows over Innistrad. This is Gabby Spartz with Pro Tour Hall of Famer Randy Buehler here in the booth, and we are ready to watch the top 8. We have so much amazing magic for you today. Great matchups, super sweet decks.
Oh yeah.
And our players are ready. So you're ready, we're ready.
I'm ready.
Let's head down to the feature match area. Hello and welcome to coverage of the top 8 here at Pro Tour Shadows over Innistrad. Gabby Spartz with Randy Buehler in the booth. And we are ready to watch the top 8. Quarterfinals 1 and 2 will be, well, our first quarterfinal is Luis Scott-Vargas versus Shota Yasooka. Here over on the left, you see Luis. Pro Tour Hall of Famer, PT champion, so many things to his name. This is his 7th top 8, and he's bringing Black-Green Aristocrats to the deck today, to the battlefield today, excuse me. Yeah, over on the right, we will see Shota Yasooka bringing Esper Dragons today.
Also a Pro Tour Hall of Famer.
Also
a Pro Tour champion.
It's a battle of giants here.
Unbelievable. This should be fun. And both of these guys play blisteringly fast as well. I think I can imagine them finishing their entire match before we get over to Finkel.
Yeah, when you're watching these players in the feature match area, it's just hard to keep up. So look at this. They're already off to the races. Loam Dryad,
oh, wow.
Blister Pod, and Elvish Visionary for Luis.
Wow, that Loam Dryad let the Elvish Visionary power out of Blister Pod already. That's just 2 turns. He's already got 4 mana worth of stuff in play. And Shota's draw is a little bit on the slow side with nothing in these first couple turns.
Yeah, Luis definitely is getting out to the kind of start that he wants with this kind of deck. I know he's talked about this being a somewhat difficult matchup, but I think this is exactly the kind of board position he wants if he wants to finish out a game quickly against Shota.
Yeah, before sideboarding Languish is the real card that Luis is worried about. After sideboarding Kalatas will be his biggest fear. But if he can win before Shota gets to 4 and is able to play one of those backbreakers, I mean, his deck is explosive enough to do that, especially on the play.
So taking a look at Yasuoka's hand, Sunken Hollow, Grasp of Darkness, Ultimate Price, Painful Truths, a lot of card advantage, and then there is that Languish in there.
Yep.
The Grasp of Darkness is going to take care of that Loam Dryad.
Makes mana via the Cryptolith, right? So doesn't need to tap another creature. What? Wow.
He has enough mana to play that Catacomb Sifter, though. He does know, and he must be concerned. Luis has to be concerned about extending into a Languish here, though. Shota is...
It's only turn 3.
Yeah.
You can't Languish on turn 3.
Yeah.
Shota kept 2 lands in this draw. It looks like he has managed to put 4 lands together, but these last 2 come into play tapped. He's only got a comes into play tapped land for turn 4, so I don't think he can Languish till turn 5. There's the Nantuko Husk. Wow, is Shota even going to... I don't know if Shota's going to get a turn 5.
So Luis is going to attack with almost everybody. Yeah, no, actually everybody. Hissing Quagmire is a land. Ultimate Price is going to take care of that, and then Nantuko Husk. That's a problem for Luis. The other problem, Randy, he does not have a Zulaport Cutthroat. Talk about the importance
True.
of this card in this matchup.
Yeah, the Zulaport Cutthroat lets you essentially combo kill, sacrificing everything, getting all those triggers, similar to the way the rally deck could sometimes kill.
So Shota's going to play Jace Rinse Prodigy, a tap land, and pass. So the Shambling Vent does not allow him to languish this turn, though. He will be able to next turn. Luis attacking with a team.
Jace?
Jace
Just
getting in
blocking.
front of the blister pod, no fear.
I'm in 0-2. All right, I got a job to do.
So untap for Shota.
Jace looks back at Shota like, really? You're going to feed me to a languish? All I'm supposed to do is save you a point of damage? Can't quite flip him this turn, I don't think.
Yeah, in some ways he's signaling to Luis that he should overextend into this, right?
I agree,
Otherwise he
I
wouldn't
agree.
run out the Jace.
That's a great point, Gabby. I think that's exactly what he was doing. He was hoping to get Luis to play more.
Shota's going to discard Painful Truth. He has another copy of that in his hand.
I mean, Shota's not dead on board next turn. I feel like, yeah.
Yeah, but there's a Languish. Languish is going to take care of everything here. Luis is going to sack the Scion. He'll be able
wants
to
to-
scry.
Yeah, creature's dying before the Sifter dies.
Then everything is going to die. He's still going to get some scries out of this. Unfortunately, no board presence anymore. He does have Collected Company in hand.
And he gets the one Blister Pod token.
Another scry. Does not like what he sees. Land for Shota and Collected
Wow.
Company and the turn for Luis Scott-Vargas.
That worked out. That's what he was digging for with those scries, was trying to find a Coco. Now, I mean, one of the great things about this deck, it's reminiscent of Luis's Berlin deck. You can win by just attacking with your dorky combo creatures. And that's exactly what Luis is trying to do here. He's like, all right, I played a bunch of my small creatures. Wow. There it is.
That end-step Collected Company untaps enough Zulaport Cutthroats and sack outlets to take game one here in the quarterfinals of Pro Tour Shadows over Innistrad. That was so impressive, Randy.
Yeah, Collected Company found. Pretty good hit.
Absolutely.
Nantuko Husk plus Zulaport Cutthroat, couple more creatures. That's it.
Well, stay tuned, everyone. That was game one here from the quarters of Pro Tour Shadows over Innistrad. We will be back shortly after these messages.
There's never been a better time to get into Standard. Set rotation and Shadows over Innistrad have altered the format's landscape dramatically. Blaze a new trail at Friday Night Magic. For more information, visit magic.wizards.com/FNM. Put what you've learned from watching the Pro Tour into action next weekend at Game Day. Test your skills and your new Standard deck at a store near you. Top finishers are awarded special Game Day prizes, including full art premium promo cards and a champion playmat for the winner.
Hello and welcome back to coverage of Pro Tour Shadows over Innistrad here from Madrid, Spain. This is Gabby Spartz with Randy Buehler in the booth. We're going to do a live looking into the match of Jon Finkel versus Andrea Mengucci. Looks like Andrea has a very commanding board presence here, though. Jon has an Infinite Obliteration currently on the stack, it seems.
He's removed Reflector Mages, it sounds like. Oh, that's Andrea's hand. That's not his board.
Yeah, so Reflector Mage out of this game for now. Well, at least this game
Yeah.
in its entirety.
Yeah, this board doesn't look quite as impressive
No,
once
not
Andrea picks
anymore.
those cards back up again. Yeah, they're on turn 4 of a match that could go grindy, could go long. Wow, Luis and Shota are already playing. Hilarious.
So we're going to get updates to you guys about what's going on in Jon versus Andrea's match, but we'll be moving back to our main feature match for now. Once again, that's Luis Scott-Vargas versus Shota Yasooka.
I saw Luis on Twitter this morning saying, I don't know if I can beat Shota. It's a bad matchup, but I guarantee whatever happens, it'll happen fast.
And fast it is happening.
He
Jace
was
Prince
not
Prodigy
lying.
for Shota. And the Loam Dryad and Zulaport Cutthroat for Luis. Once again, that Jace, no fear, blocking that Loam Dryad. And then Tuco Husk is the play for Luis.
It is very rare to have a match where Luis is the slower of the two players. That's just, these might be literally the two fastest players on tour. Both of them are just lightning fast in their decision making. They parse board states seemingly instantaneously.
Honestly, it's such a pleasure watching really good Magic players play that fast.
I agree completely.
On tap for Luis.
Yeah, he's got a Husk, he's got a Cutthroat. If he can flood the board, this is how he wants to go. He just has to worry a little bit about that Languish, obviously.
Yeah, you know, we got a chance to talk to him a little bit about sideboarding too. Although they're not sideboarded
Yeah, this
in
is
this
game 2.
Correct.
Keep that in mind.
Yep.
The new rule starting at this Pro Tour, these best 3 out of 5 matchups, only have sideboards starting with game 3.
If that's the case, then it's definitely in Luis's best interest to just try to get both of these right now.
Yeah, it's just the language he's worried about, and
Duskwatch Recruiter is a play for Luis. A loot for Shota. Discarding an island. That Jace does not get to flip quite yet. Foul-Tone Invocation targeting Luis, revealing Dragon Lord Ojutai will gain him quite a bit of life, and that's exactly what Shota wants to do in this kind of matchup. He just needs to slow it down a little bit. Having a dragon here seemed pretty important.
yeah, and this is the other thing. I mean, Esper Dragons has been around Standard for a little while. I mean, it's definitely transformed in the new Standard, but they've got that threat of a sweeper, and then at the same time, if you play your creatures out one at a time, they can just kill them one at a time. So Luis kind of has to quote-unquote overcommit. Otherwise, he'll lose to things like Foul-Tongue Invocation. And now, Ojutai is in the house. That is a big, flying, blocking, attacking menace.
Though, him playing Ojutai right here, does it signify in some way that he does not have Languish in hand? Because it was a pretty good board to Languish away.
Yeah, you're right. It does. And I think Luis knew once he had 4 creatures and Shota declined to Languish, it's like, maybe against a lesser player, Shota might try to maintain the Languish threat, but
Yeah.
he knew that Luis knew that he didn't have it here. Yeah, Shota's hand looks like more Foul-Tongue Invocation and a couple Silumgar Scorns.
Yeah, and Foul-Tone Invocation not looking at his best against the deck that can go wide and with such small creatures too.
Yeah.
Westvale Abbey is the land for Luis. Catacomb Sifter.
Interesting. He does have enough creatures for Westvale Abbey.
And now blocking this Nantuku Husk is kind of a nightmare.
There's no table in table A.
Jace is going to block and flip. It's a free flip and a free block. So he's going to take no damage here, but he has to piece together a way to answer this board now. Looking at Luis's hand, he has a Forest, a Zulaport Cutthroat, a Hissing Quagmire, and a Llanowar Waste in hand. So a little flooded now, but Zulaport Cutthroat should be pretty impactful on with the kind of board he already has.
Shota pausing to think. I don't say that lightly. Take note. This is kind of the first time this morning where we've actually had a player go into the tank and try to figure out, all right, how do I need to play this? And a lot of it is Shota trying to figure out, can he afford to attack? Is he going to just die to Luis's Alpha Strike if he attacks with his dragon? But if he doesn't attack with his dragon, then he can't go digging for a Languish.
And it seems like that's what he's going to do. Attacking with Ojutai and anticipating.
I did not see a Languish
I
in
did
there.
not catch one there either.
Yeah, if he had found a Languish, then was able to sweep this board on this turn, he almost certainly wins this game. Without the Languish, I think Luis almost certainly wins.
I got an update from one of our back tables. Andrea Mengucci versus Jon Finkel. Andrea takes game 1. Jon had a Languish, but it wasn't enough to actually get there.
Yeah, it sounds like Mengu was able to refill with a collected company after the Languish, so game 1 to Mengu. Oh, wow. Sylvan Advocate surviving the Languish is crucial there. Yeah, we were talking to Andrea this morning. That sounded like the key, which you don't play your Sylvan Advocates until they're big enough to survive.
Right, because Languish is just so difficult for you to deal with. But Sylvan Advocate's maybe your only creature that survives through that.
Yep.
Duskwatch Recruiter is a draw for Luis.
Yeah, Shota attacked with the dragon. He then went ahead and used Foul-Tongue Invocation. He's hoping he has enough life to survive this turn. Luis has a second Cutthroat in his hand, though, right?
Yes, he does.
That, I mean, hey, I'm trying to do the math, but 2 Cutthroats with an Nintuko Husk, that is so much damage. I guess he's got to guard against an ultimate price on Nintuko Husk. I don't think the combo kill all by itself is quite enough. He needs to deal 19. And now Luis's turn to actually think, do some math. This board state is tricky.
Right, and I think that's one of the cool things about the Black-Green Aristocrats deck, because you have different paths to victory in many ways.
Yes.
So, you know, he can try to go wide and kill here, or he could, at some point, maybe activate Westbell Abbey and try to go for that kind of kill, but that could be very risky as well.
Yeah, and the fact that Shota has both removal and also permission, right? There's not been a lot of counterspells played this weekend, but I will be surprised if this Cutthroat resolves. Shota's got Silumgar Scorn, and he's got a dragon. If the second Cutthroat gets into play, I think Luis will certainly have the damage he needs. That's the math Shota's doing here.
Yeah, Shota's doing the math here just to see if...
There's no way he survives this, right?
I think he's going to go ahead and... I think he has to counter that.
I mean, Shota's big picture game plan is to languish away the board. So if he could survive, he might be tempted to let Luis, you know, have that languish that Shota needs in his top 4 cards.
Right, and then he gets to keep the Silumgar Scorn.
Precisely. But yeah, no, he's in way too much danger of dying on the spot with second Cutthroat in play, so Silumgar Scorn stops that from happening. Now, can Luis do 19? Shota down to 1 mana. I don't think his deck does anything for 1 mana.
Slash, there's nothing in his hand that does anything for 1 mana right now.
Yeah, I don't even think there's a possibility. There's nothing Luis has to play about. It's just it's a solitaire puzzle now. It's Magic the Puzzling.
So everyone's going to attack.
Jace ticked up. Is it the Nintuko Husk is down 2 power?
Presumably, yeah.
Yeah, so if Luis isn't going to sacrifice anything, then there's no reason to attack with it. This is an attack for 6, I think.
Yeah, looks like it.
Yeah, it's a tricky spot. I mean, Luis is clearly ahead, but both players know that Shota is just digging for languish. And Luis would like to win the game as quickly as possible before Shota can find the languish. Man, hats off to Ian Duke. All day Thursday, all day Friday, he was saying that this standard was going to come down to whether people found good decks for languish.
All the weekend he was talking about this.
And he called it exactly correctly. That is just a crucial card in this top 8.
Dragon Lord Ojutai, I did not see what Shota took, but he took it so quickly that...
It's a black card, but it's Grasp.
I was going to say, he took it so quickly that it might have been exactly what he needed.
You'd think that, but it's Shota.
Yeah, that's true. Grasp of Darkness will be able to take care of some of the other problematic creatures here. You know, even if he hasn't been able to find the languish itself, he is taking care of Luis's board very slowly.
It's true. I'm guessing Cutthroat is the target? I mean, God, all those creatures are good. He's got an ultimate price too, right? So between Cutthroat and between Grasp and ultimate price, he can take out multiple creatures. Cutthroat is first, makes sense. Luis, of course, sacks it as a response. So it may as well make his Husk bigger. Get a Scry trigger.
Luis in the hand about his top card. We know the rest of his hand is currently pretty much just lands. Duskwatch Recruiter as well.
And note that Luis has 3 mana to activate the Duskwatch that's in play. All right. Up with the Jace.
And he is going to activate. He found another Zulaport Cutthroat.
It's a good one.
Especially with one just dying. Untap and draw.
Shota's actually maneuvered this game where you can imagine him winning without a languish. Right? Jace has been saving him some damage. Removal spells have been, and counter spells have kept the Cutthroats at bay.
Ojutai's done a lot of work here, even if it hasn't found the languish.
Right, it's found 2 removal spells.
Right.
And, oh, by the way, dealt 10 damage. So Luis is on Cutthroat, Recruiter, and I guess Loam Dryad was his draw step. Shota's got up a counterspell and a removal spell.
So Zulaport Cutthroat for Luis.
Do you use your last counterspell? on this cutthroat.
And that's a tricky thing here too. When you're running your last counterspell, that's the one you really want to hold on to.
Yeah, kind of the job for that is to point it at Collected Company. I mean, Luis could easily have a Collected Company's hand for all Shota knows.
It almost looks like he's baiting it too. Look,
Wow.
he lets it resolve.
I think that was really well played by Luis. Yeah, you're right. He's representing Collected Company follow-up, and he doesn't have it. But Shota has to respect that possibility, so the cutthroat comes into play.
And he let that resolve as well. And he's still representing it. He still could tap, yeah. He could have sacked the Scion for mana, so all the creatures are going to attack here. Playing these creatures post-combat also means that Luis can sack one of those creatures that's not attacking.
Yeah.
Yep.
So is that 6 damage?
Yeah.
7 with the cutthroat trigger?
Depends on what Jace...
Oh, 5 plus
yeah.
1, yeah. Jace was on the husk, so 6 damage, including the trigger.
So passing priority to him. Ultimate Price is going to take care of that husk. So not quite as much damage, but it is getting a removal spell out of Shota's hand.
And Shota's still sitting on a Foul Tongue Invocations. That gain, the life
And
gain.
a counter spell still.
Yeah, he held the score and he let the cutthroat resolve. So he has a counter spell and he has a Foul Tongue. He could Foul Tongue here to gain the life. It's a window where Luis could hypothetically resolve a Collected Company, but I think Shota's willing to let Luis resolve Collected Company in his own end step if that's what Luis wants to do. Sack a Scion.
So 16 to 13.
But no. It's funny, if Luis went for the Coco, then he doesn't have the Scion to sack to the Foul Tongue, so.
Hissing Quagmire is a land for Luis. And now I think Shota might get a read that Luis may not have that Collected Company in hand.
Agreed.
So Dragon Lord Oshita gets
More
in there for
removal
5,
spells.
and Luis putting Luis down to 6.
Shota's really going to win this game without a language, isn't he?
Yeah, he maneuvered this really well. He maneuvered this really well not to die because he was back against the wall for a number of turns right there.
He's a master. Absolute world-class master.
So Jay's taking down a flashback Foul Tongue Invocation. And now all the creatures that Luis can sack are actually pretty impactful.
Yeah, they're real.
They're not Scions anymore.
Luis going to activate Recruiter now, have a little bit more information before he decides what to sack.
Liliana.
Drain you for 1.
Liliana doesn't seem like it's going to do enough for him here. So he's scrying and he's putting it to the bottom. Another Grasp of Darkness takes care of the Recruiter.
Dragon Lord Ochitai is a good card, huh?
Yeah, no kidding.
This is kind of the dream for Esper Dragons.
He was MVP this game.
Attacking, drawing extra cards, turning on life gain, turning on counter spells. Nobody else could make Esper Dragons work. I mean, everybody knew these cards were still around, but only Shota was able to put together an Esper Dragons list that could do anything. I did the stats for on the metagame. You know, it showed up at maybe the 10th most played deck. I mean, there's a good dozen copies in the field on day 1, and they got crushed. They advanced like 37.5% of their players. It was minuscule.
Yeah, that's
right. 62% of the field advanced. Shota, though.
Silumgar Scorn's going to counter that Duskwatch Recruiter. He's held on to that so closely. But Liliana Heretical Healer will come out. Obnixilis, Jace, and there's the Languish, though.
He
doesn't even need it anymore.
Yeah, time for a Planeswalker. Why not?
Yeah, so he's going to choose to take that Obnixilis. There he is.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So Obnixilis targeting Liliana. It's going to destroy her. And this window seems to have closed on Luis Scott-Vargas. He's so close for so many turns.
I agree. And I agree.
Jace for Shota. So his Quagmire is going to animate. And this doesn't bode well for Luis's hand.
Yeah, he
so
started
it's good.
attacking planeswalkers.
But still without any board presence. What can Luis possibly do to piece together back a win in this match?
He's hoping Shota's out of gas and that he can somehow kill off the planeswalkers and then win a top deck war. I mean, it is a long shot, but I mean, with Shota on 14, it doesn't do him any good to attack Shota.
Dragon Lord Ojutai putting Luis down to 2. Ultimate price is what he finds. Jay's ticking up, targeting Catacomb Sifter. Dragon Lord Silumgar taking the Catacomb Sifter. He tapped it in response. Collected Company. All right, that's a start. Catacomb Sifter and Tuku Husk. But now with that Dragon Lord Silumgar, what can he even do?
Yeah. I mean, make an Ormondal maybe? Block? It's not even good enough, right? There's 2 lethal flyers against him. Oh,
Well,
the
he
lifelink
gains
would
life.
save him. The
He gains
lifelink would
life.
save him. Yeah, Ormondal was the only chance.
But that's still not enough. Shota Yasooka is going to even it out between Luis Scott-Vargas and Shota Yasooka. We're going to move on to a game 3 here.
Now we're going to get at least 4. 1-1 between
Yeah.
those guys, so look forward to watching more of that. Jon and Andrea are still in game 2, I believe. I haven't heard an update since Mengu won the first one.
There we go. Jon and Andrea still.
Looks like the ultimate price was able to kill the Sylvan Advocate. And Jon's actually on offense here, huh? It's a big Kalatas.
Tireless tracker for Andrea. And this is going to cost Nissa to transform. He also gets a clue out of the exchange.
Not bad. Yeah, that card's really good. I'm not sure it's a season's past worth of long-term value, but
Still pretty good.
indeed.
This is going to take down, creating an Ashaya token.
See the red dot by Mengucci's name. He is up a game. These are best 3 out of 5, though, so still got a lot of Magic left to play. There was a lot of debate about this matchup I saw. I know that Kai Buddha, teammate of Jon's, was saying that that is a terrible matchup. I heard Kai
Really?
give Jon a 10% chance. Jon did not enjoy hearing that. I mean, he thinks Kai's just wrong. You know, Jon played the matchup once in the Swiss and won it. Reed Duke, who I saw sitting with Jon this morning, sort of playtesting, helping him prepare for this quarterfinal.
Yeah.
Reed went 4-0 in this matchup over the course of the tournament.
Okay.
So it's not that bad. It maybe probably favors Bant Company.
I was going to say, to some extent, you still have to trust Kai's opinion, you know?
Well, actually, the thing you want to do, if you want to know this more about this deck, Jon posted a spectacular article to Channel Fireball overnight. He actually wrote an article before the Pro Tour, which was posted Saturday night on Channel Fireball
Good
about
timing.
this deck. And it's really well written. I mean, Jon's an articulate guy when he wants to be. He's saying, you know, the deck is Reed Duke, vintage Reed Duke plus vintage Billy being William Jensen. You know, Reed loves the black-green mid-range decks. Huey loves the Sphinx's Do Nothing plus Sphinx's Revelation decks. And a lot of the way they think about this deck is that you build your own Sphinx's Revelation between Nissa's Revelation and Seasons Past. Here's the life gain. Here's all the card advantage. Those two together is a build your own Sphinx's Rev.
Definitely a control deck that we haven't seen in a little bit of time. It's got no blue in it.
Yeah. Sprinkle in a little Cuneo. And it's a nice controlled build. And the way Jon explained it in that article, he said the only matchup they think that they're an underdog in is versus Bant Company. They can crush the humans decks. They can crush all the decks designed to beat Bant Company. And that's 75% of the field. all right, they're not great against the Bant Company deck, which was, 20-some% of the field, but you'll take it. Kind of unfortunate for John, he got paired against the only Bant Company
Right,
to
in his
survive
first
the gauntlet.
quarterfinals, yeah.
And we barely got a Bant Company in this top 8. It did not perform well on the weekend.
The diversity of this top 8 has been extraordinary. We're going to keep bringing you updates of what's going on between John and Andrea, but for now we're going to move back to the match of Scott-Vargas versus Yasuoka. Looks like our players are drawing, and
Oh, did we get a mulligan there?
I think Luis is mulliganing.
Yeah,
yes.
Luis is going to mulligan. We should maybe watch a little more Finkel Mengu. Saw Mengu line up some blocks, but he did take the hit. Kalitas at 4 power now and lifelink.
Yeah, this board has
Or
cleared
sorry,
up
5 power.
The board has cleared up significantly. Oh,
there we
seasons
go.
passed.
Here we see the signature card 0, 2, 3, 4, 1. That's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Doesn't have a Nissa's Revelation yet, so he doesn't get a 6. He'll have to settle for 6 cards.
He's still sitting at a very comfortable 24 life total.
Evolving Wilds even giving him the 0. That is so absurd.
That's one of the really cool interactions in this deck with Hissing Quagmire, because with Hissing Quagmire is, he doesn't have that many spots in his deck for creatures themselves, but Hissing Quagmire is a 0 that can actually come back from the graveyard with seasons past.
All right, now we got Luis and Shota off to the races.
So Luis and Shota off to the races. Luis mulligan to 6, we have confirmation. Jace Friends Prodigy for Shota and a pass back to Luis. Luis doesn't have, Forest, there you go. Catacomb Sifter for Luis.
Nothing on turn 1 or 2. It's not exactly the way Luis drew it up.
Definitely not.
And we are now in sideboard territory. This is game 3.
Yeah, so can you talk to me, Randy, about what happens post-board for both of these players?
Well, Shota gets to bring in 2 copies of Kalitas, Trader of Get. That is the most impactful thing going on. He gets to sort of decide what package of, duresses and negates and removal and exactly how he wants to line that up. I mean, sideboarding often helps the control deck more because, with a control deck, you got to have the right set. You just kind of have to guess which set of answers you want in your main deck, but then after sideboarding, you can often make a nice improvement to your deck by customizing your answers now that you know who you're playing against. I don't know that sideboarding changes Luis's deck a lot. I mean, he gets Transgress the Mind if he wants it, but I mean, really, I think he just plays his deck. His deck does its thing, and he kind of has to hope Shota doesn't draw the crucial cards.
We do see a sideboard card here from Luis. Tireless Tracker just hitting the battlefield, though he is going down right now. The Duress was able to take care of the Collected Company in Luis's hand, and now Luis's hand is just an Antuka Husk and a Westvale Abbey. Jace is going to transform. And Luis's board looking... Oh, he just drew a Collected Company.
Interesting.
Do you think Shota will bring something like Virulent Plague post-board? Because that seems like something that could be pretty difficult for Luis to beat. Not more than Kalitas.
Yeah, I don't think so.
So Collected Company is able to find a Tireless Tracker and an Antuka Husk.
Wow, Tireless Tracker makes a clue.
Yeah, and in a game where Luis expects it to go significantly longer, getting those clues is going to be very valuable.
I mean, trackers look decent here, but part of that is because the game is sort of going long, which is bad news for Luis. But okay, at least he's got a threat that does some stuff.
He does manage to get a 2-for-1 though, because if Tireless Tracker is just going to be another creature that dies to Languish, if he manages to get 1 or 2 more cards out of it, he can play a lot. He can try to keep up with a control deck.
Yeah, I just think he's not going to win the long game. He kind of, in my mind.
Yeah. So Jace flashback in Grasp of Darkness, taking down that Tireless Tracker. Luis is going to sack it to Nantuka Husk, because why not?
Luis's hand is just Forest and then Tuco Husk.
He does have clues though, that he'll be able to start cracking pretty soon.
Good point. And he's able to kill Jace.
So Jace goes down.
What's
Comes out
Shota
for
sitting
Shota.
on? Dragon, a removal spell, and a backup chase.
And a dead weight.
Wow, that's a pretty efficient little removal spell. 1 mana kill Nantuko Husk. And Dragon Lord Ojutai is in the house. Luis needs to hit good off these clues. He's got the mana to sack them. He's got Shota tapped out. But if Shota untaps with Dragon Lord Ojutai in play, I think Shota will be taking a 2-1 lead. So, 2 clues and a draw step. What'd you find, Luis?
You found a Nantuko Husk, a Duskwatch Recruiter, and I think a Liliana Heretical Healer.
That doesn't sound like enough.
Liliana can start doing some work, getting some of those creatures back from the graveyard, though. Dragon Lord Ojutai is just such a fast clock. It's such a great card advantage machine.
Indeed. That's that we saw in game 2.
What do you think about the strategy of going in on Ormondal in this matchup for Luis?
It's a backup plan. I mean, I think Luis is going to try to win the game with aggression via early creatures. If that doesn't work, he's going to try to combo kill. And, you know, he's got Ormondal in his back pocket as a plan, and often as a sack outlet, right? And then it's the more expensive version of Nantuko Husk when you're trying to combo kill.
Dragon Lord Ojutai attacking for 5. I believe Shota just found a Languish.
Wow. Yeah, we've seen a lot of Grasp of Darkness moving into deck lists this weekend, and it is as a reaction to Ormondal. 2 copies of Grasp of Darkness can kill that indestructible 9/7.
Jace is a play for Shota. Maybe he didn't find one.
Or a Languish and a Grasp, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah, those -X effects are... They've made Ormondal a little more vulnerable. I mean, he says indestructible, but still dies to Grasp of Darkness. Well, ×2. Sounds like he took the Silumgar scorn there. So now Shota's got a counterspell and an Ojutai.
Luis attacked with all his creatures. The Scion got blocked. Duskwatch Recruiter is a play.
Luis looks over. What do you think? Can I have this?
Shota says no.
And Luis, he did the same thing last game where he sort of leads with the most threatening thing in his hand, representing the ability to follow up the Collected Company to see if he can get Shota to not use his counterspell. This time, though, Shota does pull the trigger. Duskwatch Recruiter could get out of control. That recruit ability had the potential to fill Luis's hand and help flood his board.
So Luis is going to animate his
that's cute.
Quagmire, yes, to sack it to Nantuko Husk to flip Liliana, and now he can buy back the Duskwatch Recruiter.
Jeez.
That was a nice sequence of events right there.
So he slogged his way through a Silumgar scorn, and all it cost him was a Hissing Quagmire. I did not see that coming.
Yeah,
that was cool.
He's pretty flooded, so he doesn't even mind.
Oh, by the way, 3 mana to activate the Recruiter here, too. Luis definitely fighting a good fight.
Dragon Lord Ojutai again in there for 5.
Oh, is that Languish?
Yeah, I think so. It's also Kalidas in hand, so Shota has a wealth of options here.
I think. What did he take? I didn't see.
We'll get confirmation soon.
It's
It was the Languish.
Yeah, I was thinking that one was the better one. He even gets to turn Jason into a Planeswalker before he uses it. He loses his Dragon, though.
Dragon Lord Ojutai did everything he needed to do here, so...
He's not going to get to stay around for the glory.
He can take one for the team. He'll be fine.
You sure? Looks like he might be a little salty to head to the graveyard.
Jace is going to transform.
Yeah, Luis knows. This is not a great spot for him. Oh, wow. He's not going to use the Languish. Kalitas plus Dragon Lord Ojutai.
Well, if he does Languish away, he's going to leave Luis with a Liliana that he can't kill that turn. So he could potentially set up for a better turn for him to languish in.
Yeah, it doesn't need to kill the whole board. He's content to just kill Duskwatch Recruiter. And I guess Nantuko Husk would survive the Languish. So yeah, Shota's line does make a lot of sense. Not that I'm surprised. I'm just catching up mostly.
Absolutely. It's also going to mean that he's going to be able to get a lot of zombies from this exchange.
Sounds like Finkel and Andrea are still in game 2. Mengu's got a pair of Sylvan Advocates holding off Kalatas and an army of zombies. Yeah, so however, the second season's pass has just been cast, so gotta like Finkel's odds to even that up at a game apiece.
And Tuka Husk getting in there.
Shota has done so many powerful things, and Luis is just finding ways to keep applying pressure. It's pretty impressive.
Just an update, it's 1-1 in Mengucci versus Finkel.
Okay, so Finkel did finish it off.
Yeah, the second season's pass was enough for a concession.
Fair enough.
Dragon Lord Ojutai attacking Liliana. Now she's gone. Looks like in Shota's hand we have Transgress a Mind, Ultimate Price, and Languish. Yeah, this Languish, Luis is going to sacrifice everything to Tuka Husk. He's going to get a lot of scries.
Luis empty-handed here as well. Digging, presumably for Collected Company.
Yeah, but he's not finding it so far. He does not like what he sees.
Yeah, 2 scries per creature from the 2 sifters, of course.
Another 2 sifters go away as well.
So Husk is going to survive. Shota has to kill his own Kalatas and his own Dragon Lord Ojutai.
He gets 2 zombies out of the exchange.
Does get 2 zombies out of the exchange, but I think a lot of what was going on there is the threat of Westphal Abbey. I don't think Shota had a way to deal with Ormondal, and Luis was up to 5 creatures with a Westphal Abbey. So if he let Luis on tap, we would have seen 9/7 coming into play, and Shota didn't have an answer. So down goes the Dragon and the Kalatas.
So Elvish Visionary is going to draw a forest for Luis. That's enough for him to activate Westphal Abbey at the end of the turn too.
True.
So that's going to take down the Husk. Jace is going to flash back Painful Truths, and down goes Jace. And this is where the game is just running away from Luis. He doesn't have the same way of drawing cards the way Shota does, but
yeah, it's kind of impressive that Luis is still in it, though.
Yeah.
He navigated a path through all those removal spells and the Dragon and the Kalatas and sort of forced Shota to languish away his own board. I still like Shota's position, but the fact that this isn't over is a testament to how well Luis plays.
another Elvish Visionary. See, we're getting back in the range of Westphal Abbey again.
Right.
Problem, though, is with Luis being here at 6 and having no way to block that Dragon Lord Ojutai, Shota can attack in such a way that he forces Luis to have to basically chump his board away.
Yeah, good point. Oh, Elvish Visionary found Collected Company?
Wow. Let's spin the wheel.
What do we find? See, a Visionary, and then Tuka Husk. If this Visionary finds a Zulaport Cutthroat, how ridiculous would that be?
That would be insane. Let's see. Draw a card.
Visionary finds
Home Dryad.
That is enough creatures
All
for
right.
Westphal Abbey, but Shota has a 5-power flyer.
So in Shota's hand, we have Transgress the Mind, Choked Estuary. None of this answers Ormondal.
No, and none of it, wow. Yeah,
I'm going to be so impressed if Luis wins this game.
You and me both. It all comes down to Luis's top deck, right?
Mm-hmm.
He needs to deal 9 damage next turn because the next Ojutai attack will kill him. All right,
Yeah,
jumps
so
the zombie, goes to 1 last point of life. What does Ojutai find for Shota?
Oh, that's a Dragon Lord Silumgar.
Jeez.
Wow. Yeah, 6 mana. Here it comes.
Steel Husk, yeah. Steel Husk. Luis will-
Yeah. Husk sacks itself. Here we go. Top of the deck. Oh, it was a forest.
Wow.
And Shota's
What a
gonna
game.
Shota's gonna take it to 2-1 between Luis Scott-Vargas and Shota Yasooka.
A little smile from Shota there, too.
Yeah, just a little one. That was what a crazy match.
And then he instantaneously shuffles his entire 15-card sideboard into his deck. Does not want Luis to get any read on what he's doing. This is some great magic.
It's so impressive that he was able to hang in there even when it looked like things were looking so grim for so many turns right there.
Both of these guys are masters. And Luis with 7 Pro Tour top 8s now. I could get behind this sort of late career renaissance from Luis. Back-to-back top 8s. You know, there's only 2 players with multiple Pro Tour top 8s this season, and they're Luis Scott-Vargas and Jon Finkel.
They've both been having a very good year.
Competition for the Hall of Fame slot at Worlds is going to be pretty severe.
Yasuoka has 2 PT top 8s to his name. He's the champion of PT Charleston in 2006. So one of the most important cards that we saw in this matchup was definitely Languish. Languish is a rare sorcery from Magic Origins. You can see that alligator meeting its demise. It's awesome for efficient mass removal. Honestly, you know, Ian was talking about this for pretty much the entire weekend and how important it was to find a deck that could really take advantage of this card and how there really wasn't anything that seemed to fit it very well, right?
Wasn't past tense.
Wasn't.
Leave it to the Pro Tour to find out how to make this card work.
That was a big question, right? Are any of these decks going to be able to play Languish in an efficient way? And here we see both Yasuoka and also Jon.
Right. It's good against the humans decks, the white wingy decks, if you will. It's good against Bant Company decks. And I really like this last point here, too. I know that historically in Magic, Wrath of God has been the sweeper that everyone was worried about, right? 4 mana Wrath of God. And I like that R&D has pushed those unconditional sweepers to 5 mana. I think it just makes Standard a lot more interesting. And just looking at the 8 decks in this top 8, Standard's in a great spot right now. So hats off to those guys.
Yeah, pretty neat thing too is you can play this not just in the control deck, but you can also play it in the deck with larger creatures. So it gives you flexibility in terms of what you build and what it looks like. Very, very cool card. We'll be seeing more of this in Standard, I'm sure. In the meantime, we can take a look back at our main match. It looks like
Luis gonna mulligan again.
Oh, unfortunately, Luis is going to take a mulligan.
Looks like Jon's taking probably a bio break. So those guys get ready for their 3rd game. Luis and Shota are about to start game 4. Shota up a game. He's up 2-1, best 3 out of 5. So if he wins this one, he's through to the semifinals. And the way we've set these up, when the 2 quarters that are running simultaneously, they're winners play. So it's the winner of this match versus the winner of Jon and Andrea. I also know that Luis would prefer not to do any commentary today, but he's let us know he will happily take up his customary Sunday spot in the booth if he does get eliminated.
Luis is always down to be in the booth, so yeah.
He said, give me 5 minutes. 5 minutes after I'm eliminated, I'm ready.
And I'm ready. So Luis is going to keep the 6. He did not like what he saw on top of his deck. He skirted to the bottom, and we're off to the races. Yasuoka's Recruiter for Luis.
Yasuoka's got a Jace and a Grasp, but not much else. Still, that's plenty. He's got the mana he needs. Oh, he drew a deadweight there, too.
It's pretty good at taking care of Nantuko Husk. Nantuko Husk is a tricky one, but deadweight will weigh it down.
Oh, he doesn't have the 2nd black mana for the Grasp. I was going to comment on it. He chose Jace over Grasp, but he actually didn't have a choice.
You're right,
he only has 1 black mana.
Prairie Streams and Islands in hand.
So Duskwatch Recruiter survives, can potentially recruit. Although, honestly, if that's how Luis spends his 3rd turn, I don't think Shota's all that disappointed.
Flashback Marauder is a card coming straight from Luis's sideboard.
And down goes Jace.
Yeah, pretty good against Dragon Lord Ojutai. And being able to buy it back with Liliana is pretty, you know.
Oh, that is a nice sideboard card, isn't it?
He can deal with Dragon Lord Ojutai in a pinch.
It's a 1-of.
It's a 1-of in the sideboard. Another Jace for Shota.
Wow.
At deadweight is taking down that Duskwatch recruiter. Let's draw. Westvale Abbey is the draw. Then Tuka Husk for Luis. Pass back to Shota. Transgress the mind. There is nothing for him to take.
It's always a good news, bad news.
Yeah.
It's like, I just traded my card for nothing, but
You have nothing in hand.
you have nothing in hand, exactly.
Jace activates. Dragon Lord Silumgar is the draw. Shota discards a land. He was getting a little flooded, but this Jace helps him mitigate that.
Still good. Maybe not as good as it was 6 months ago, 2 months ago, but still good.
Sunken Hollow is the land.
Yeah,
Luis
Luis has
plays
just
that.
got nothing going
Yeah,
on.
just Westvale Abbey, but making a 1/1 for 5 mana is just not going to do it. Dragon Lord is Silumgar. Attempting to steal the Nantuko Husk. This Husk sacrifices itself. Luis can get a 1/1 out of the deal. Ultimate Price in hand. And Ultimate Price is a card he brings in against something like Kalidas, but currently he doesn't even have a board. This reactive spell isn't going to do much for him. Oh, wow. Shota getting pretty aggressive here because he can.
Yes,
Attack
exactly.
with Dragon Lord Silumgar and Shambling Vent. Luis is just going to take it.
I think we're starting to know which one of these Hall of Famers is going to make the semis.
A 4 is for Luis.
Shota with an active Jace, a dragon starting to attack,
Yeah, and
a counterspell and a removal card spell in his hand.
putting Jace down to 7 is a consolation prize at this point. Let's see. Shambling Vent gets in there again.
Yeah, I mean, I guess Shota's kind of racing against Westvale Abbey. He's got 5 turns to win before Ormondal shows up.
Does he even have anything in his hand to handle it? No, he could Grasp with Darkness and make it smaller.
Yeah, but I mean, it's going to take Luis. I guess this is alive. I mean, if Luis draws a Collected Company, well,
He just drew another Westvale Abbey, though.
He needs to draw like Visionaries, I guess. Try to get to 5 creatures before he dies.
Well, unfortunately, this Jace can... Does Shota have anything in his graveyard that can kill any of these 1/1s?
That's a fair point. He's got a Grasp of Darkness in his hand.
Because that
so.
Jace is still at 6. Grasp of Darkness and Island. Silumgar getting in there again. Westvale Abbey. Luis
Yeah,
goes down
Silumgar's
to 2.
lethal next turn, so. Luis trying to get to 5 creatures for Ormondal. Shota sees it. He declined his attack with Shambling Vent there because he wanted to spend his mana on removal spells and try to keep Ormondal inside the church.
Grasp of Darkness takes down one of those clerics. Oh, hissing! There's a hissing Quagmire there, Randy.
Yeah, but he can't get
Yeah.
the 5th creature. He can only get to 4. He can't make Ormondal. And Shota Yasooka through to the semis.
Wow. It's, you know, Luis going into it did say that this was a bad matchup for him, and
Yeah.
it seems like the pre-board games really were working a lot better for him than post-board.
That game 3, though, was amazing.
Yes, it was.
That was just a pleasure to watch. I mean, Luis played well, but it is a tough matchup. Super cool deck, though. I think we're going to see the Luis's deck running around more. May start to see more Kalatas showing up in other decks to keep it under control. That was a great Pro Tour for him and the rest of his team.
Yeah, it feels like the deck that I want to play in Standard.
Yeah, they almost had another player in the top 8. I mean, Justin Cohen was playing for
Yes.
top 8 with the same deck
He was very
in the last
close.
round.
Moving back to the match between Jon Finkel and Andrea Mengucci. The players are tied at 1-1. If you're just tuning in, this is the quarterfinals of Pro Tour Shadows over Innistrad. Grasp of Darkness was able to remove that Duskwatch recruiter from play.
Take 1 damage.
And we mentioned a little while ago, but the Seasons Pass control deck that John had such a good weekend with is good against everything in the field except Bant Company. John says it's not a terrible matchup. Some of his teammates say it is. I know they were testing overnight. They do 12 game sets, and there were some players who, it's always 7-5. Jon actually won 7 out of 12, and then other 12 game sets where it would be like 1 to 11.
So looking at these games post-board, Randy, now that we are in the post-board games, do you think it's going to favor anyone like strongly?
That's a good question.
We also saw the combo wombo here of wombo combo of Tireless Tracker and Evolving Wilds. Getting 2 clues.
That's cute.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know that sideboarding changes this dramatically.
Kalitas for Jon Finkel.
Yeah, we were talking to Christian Kakano, who was teammates with Andrea. Both of them actually joined up with MTG Mint Card. So MTG Mint Card this time around, very worldwide team rather than just an Asian team. And yeah, Calc was saying that the key is Sylvan Advocate.
Okay.
You want to not play your Sylvan Advocates until you have enough land to make them a 4/5 so that it survives Languish. So slow rolling the Sylvan Advocates and being able to, force Jon to cast a Languish, but then be able to follow up. I mean, sometimes refilling with Collected Company, sometimes just using Sylvan Advocate. That's
really
key.
that's really cool. It's really good tech.
Yeah, and it's the kind of thing where a lot of the power of a deck like this season's past control deck comes from your opponents not knowing what you're up to. Like I'm sure over the course of the weekend, Bant Company decks, Jon went 1-0 against Bant Company. Reed actually went 4-0. Reed Duke played this deck, or designed this deck, and then.
We're kind of seeing the exchange you were talking about a second ago here. That Languish is going to take care of Andrea Mengucci's hand.
Yeah.
Or battlefield.
Got a tracker and a reflector mage.
Well, he was able to draw like 3 clues out of this. So the Tireless Tracker did do some work.
Oh, hey, look.
It's just what you were talking about a second ago, Sylvan Advocate, but this time he's too large to be taken out by Languish. And that's one of the scary things about Jon's deck too, because there's so many Dark Petitions. And the season's pass, he can just get it whenever he needs to. Kalitas. Ooh.
The
Andrea
one of
Mengucci says
Ojutai's command.
no.
Yeah, the one thing that does happen after sideboarding is that Andrea's got counterspells. He can negate things. He can dispel things. 3 negates are probably the most impactful sideboard card either player has here.
Does he play that in the main deck?
No,
The
it's
Ojutai's
3 in the
command?
side. The Ojutai sideboard is a 1 of in the main. There's 3 negates in the sideboard, which I have to believe are in Mengu's deck right now. And that's, I think, part of the reason that some of the Pantheon guys think the matchup is so bad. It's being able to play around those negates is tough. I look at this, I mean, watching this deck in Jon's hand has just been awesome all weekend. Okay, Nissa for Andrea. Part of the reason, I mean, Jon, he's really good at long-term planning with Magic decks. I mean, that's just always been true throughout his career. And this deck has a lot of sort of strategic similarity to some of the late 90s era control decks where you're like, okay, I can deal with that threat later. I can afford to ignore this. I'll just gain some life with this renewal. Sure, you can hit me for a bunch of damage, but then I'll Seasons Past and I'll have a 6. And that sequencing over the course of 3, 4, 5 turns in advance, and just understanding which threats matter immediately, which threats matter long term. It really plays to Jon's strengths.
Looks like Jon found his second green source. He's been playing off of just 1 Lonely Forest for most of this game. Will matter for Seasons Past, though. He does not have one in hand.
Jon. His teammates did not do particularly well with this deck this weekend. I mean, it was not a good weekend for Pantheon other than Jon.
How did the rest of Pantheon do?
Well, no one made any money. Jon's the only one who cashed the Pro Tour, which is a pretty bad result for that group of players.
Doesn't this seem like the kind of deck that Jon would do well with, though?
It does. And, I mean, part of the problem was they actually went under 50% in Limited for the weekend.
That's pretty brutal.
Yeah, it's particularly crazy.
For the team.
Yeah, for the team. And 2 of them top 8 of the Grand Prix last weekend.
Yeah.
We had Reed and Huey make top 8 in Barcelona. But I actually think the limited format changed over the course of the last week. It got a lot more aggressive. You know, Fabrizio showed people the way, and if you think about the decks that
Those
Reed
were the decks that we saw on winning.
Yeah, but if you think about the decks we saw Reed and Huey play to make that top 8, they were on the sort of slower, grindier side of the format, and I think those decks were just less successful this weekend than they were at the Grand Prix.
So Ultimate Price and Ruinous Path taking down both Sylvan Advocate and Ashaya.
Meanwhile, of course, Jon went 6-0 in Limited and is actually in first place in the Limited Master standings for Worlds.
Nissa ticking up, getting a land in play.
This game's, oh, wow, yeah. Hissing Quagmire would like to kill Nissa, but Bounding Krasis says no. Yeah, the one thing this control deck doesn't have for Jon is permission. I mean, it's actually Andrea who gets to play at instant speed.
I think part of the reason that Jon thinks this isn't a good matchup is take a look at one of the cards that Andrea has in his sideboard, or coming in from the sideboard actually, Invasive Surgery.
Meanwhile, here's Collected Company. I mean, Jon survived the initial wave of creatures with a Languish, survived the follow-up, including the slow-rolled Sylvan Advocate with some 1-for-1 removal spells, but now here's a Collected Company to refill. Oh, Reflector Beige actually bounces the Hissing Quagmire. That's cute, since it had been turned into a creature before it got tapped.
Not an interaction you see every day.
Indeed. Is Jon on just Hissing Quagmire?
Yeah, he is. And if he does top deck anything like... Oh, so we actually have some interesting information here about what's happened post-board.
Oh, geez. Look at this big attack. Yeah. Second Sylvan Advocate, which means that the creature land is +4/+4, and that was lethal for Andrea Mengucci. Now takes the 2-1 lead.
Yeah, Andrea Mengucci leading 2-1 versus Jon Finkel.
That's really played by Andrea. Really well played. So you were saying we just got information about how they're sideboarding.
Yeah, we got some sweet, sweet tech about how they're actually sideboarding. And one of the cards that I was mentioning here, we go +2 Invasive Surgery for Mengucci. It's just permission, a Dispel, and 3 negates. You know, it's all best way to fight Jon. And then out he's taking 4 Dromoka's Command. They definitely don't have very much impact in this match.
Right.
And Archangel Avacyn, which unfortunately does die to Languish. On the other side, though, we have Finkel, who goes down a Forest and 2 Transgress the Mind, a Nissa, a Dark Petition, and 1 Season's Past.
Oh, wow. He's down to 1 Season's Past. Interesting.
In favor of 1 Kalitas, 3 Deadweight, 2 Duress, and an Ultimate Price. Oh, he's also going down his main deck copy of Infinite Obliteration.
Yeah, that's really there for the ramp matchup.
Yeah.
I mean, it's funny. The ramp matchup, I mentioned this earlier, but Jon posted a great article on Channel Fireball overnight that he wrote before the Pro Tour, and then they posted as soon as the Swiss was over. He said their matchup against ramp was about 5%.
Oh, my God.
They were losing 95% of all games to the ramp deck. They put 1 copy of Infinite Obliteration into their deck, and they became a favorite in the matchup.
Wow.
Being able to Infinite Obliteration for World Breakers swung that matchup so much that you're like, all right, let's put it in the main deck and turn that bad matchup into a good one.
So one of the cool cards that comes in for, it seems like a lot of decks post-board, and just even in the main deck, is Kalitas, Trader of Get. He is a mythic rare creature from Oath of the Gatewatch. Cool new addition. He has so many things that matter, especially his ability to exile cards once they hit the graveyard. Getting a token out of the deal is pretty nice. The fact that he's a 3/4 lifelinker is nothing to scoff at.
I mean, even the sacrifice ability to make him bigger, we've seen come up.
Another cool thing you might have not noticed is that Shadows over Innistrad features more zombies and vampires. You know, that being one of the sub-things of Innistrad. Things are pretty spooky, and Kalitas can recruit many friends if he needs.
Yeah, R&D's been doing a good job of that in recent years, just sort of setting up these, you know, cross-block synergies.
Yeah, we started seeing a little bit of Kalitas as tech that people were bringing in against Riley the Ancestors, though. It seems like he's finding his place in Standard, even with exiling now being the most relevant piece of text for him. A 3-4 body is pretty big in Standard right now. You might have not known he was also the leader of the Vampires on Zendikar.
Sided with the Eldrazi.
Yeah. I mean, he is a traitor.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough.
We're moving back to our main match now. If you're just tuning in, Andrea Mengucci is leading at 2-1 over Jon Finkel. This is the quarterfinals of Pro Tour Shadows over Innistrad.
If Andrea can win this game, he will be the one playing against Shota Yasooka. We're not going to have Bant Company win this Pro Tour, right? After all these awesome decks showed up,
happened,
yeah.
After 8 completely different decks in the top 8.
It barely made top 8. It was the most played deck. It was about 22% of the field on day 1, but that percentage dropped under 20% by day 2 as they advanced at less than the average rate. Like it only advanced something like 50-some% of decks. So most people knew they needed to beat Bant Company and were able to. There's enough of them, though, and enough good players playing it that we did still get one sneaking into the top 8.
I mean, it was the deck with the target on its back. That and White Weenie, definitely.
Right.
I talked to so many players leading into this Pro Tour, and they were like, yeah, I spent, you know, a couple of weeks trying to beat Bant Company, and I couldn't, so I'm just playing Bant Company this weekend.
And, you know, I'm talking about the advancement rates for the whole field, but if you look at how MTG Mint Card did specifically with the deck, you know, that was Mengucci, Katsuhiro Mori, Christian Calcano. I think Li Shitian went 9-1 in Standard. I mean, if he'd had any luck in the draft rounds, you could have seen Li Shitian making, what would that be, like his 5th top 8? They did well. Their team rate with the deck was over 70%. That's a match winning percentage. So they had a good run with Bant Company. They were maybe the only team having success, but they definitely had a lot of luck.
So one of the things we were taking a look at when John was sideboarding is that he took a copy of Seasons Past out of his deck.
Mm-hmm.
One of the reasons to do that is Invasive Surgery. Invasive Surgery, if you're not familiar, it counters target sorcery spell. But if there's Delirium online, which very well could be in a very long game, it can actually take every single copy of that sorcery out of your deck. That really attacks what John is trying to do in this matchup entirely because it recurs, you know, his Sphinx's Revelation, it's gone.
No, it's a great point. And John going to 5 cards, by the way. He's taking his 2nd mulligan. Andrea is on 6 cards, and I think keeping 6. Man, the sideboard plan for Mengucci, the more I look at it, the better it looks.
Yeah, we have confirmation that Mengucci's keeping 6, and John is going down to 5.
He can counter Instance with Dispel, he can counter Sorceries with Invasive Surgery, and he can counter either with Negate.
Yeah, all the permission coming in is just brutal for him.
Suddenly, Bant Company is the control deck in this matchup.
Yeah.
It's a really unfortunate pairing for John. I mean, every time we saw John with this deck in his hands, he was just crushing people, but this is the one matchup he was willing to sacrifice.
So it looks like 2 lands for John. Read the Bones. So some card advantage, Grasp of Darkness, and an ultimate price. He's going to go ahead and keep this, and we're off to the races. Lumbering Falls for Mengucci. Pass back to John. So Andrea's land's a little clunky right here.
Yep.
Both players are on mulligans, though John is on a mulligan to 5.
Read the Bones will help.
Mm-hmm. John goes down to 18. Scry. 2 Grasp of Darkness. He says nay. Duress and a Swamp.
Yeah, his hand was already 3 removal spells, so that makes sense.
2 mana for Jace from Andrea Mengucci, and he misses his 3rd land drop.
Turn 3 Jace. So he did nothing on turn 2 and no land on turn 3.
And here Finkel can get some information about what's going on in Mengucci's hand, and he has removal spells in his hand, so he'll be able to, he can see how valuable this Jace could be to Andrea.
It's a great turn for John. He gets to both Duress and kill Jace.
So the choices for Duress are that Negate and the Collected Company, I believe.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you might think Collected Company's the obvious pick, but Andrea's only on 2 lands.
Taking a look at Jon's hand, we have a Swamp, a Deadweight, Duress, Grasp of Darkness, Ultimate Price, and this is Renewal.
Yeah, Jon takes the negate here.
Yeah. A Swamp and Deadweight, down goes that Jace.
Evolving Wilds is the draw.
Yeah, he finds a land, but it's not exactly the land he wants. That said, he will be happily taking this Evolving Wilds. Ultimate Price. Off goes the Sylvan Advocate and untap for Jon. In Jon's hand, we just have a Grasp of Darkness and a Nizza's Renewal. So some removal, but no true plan or no true path to victory right here.
What, you don't think trading cards and putting a bunch of land into play is a plan? It sounds like a great plan to me.
Well,
Just have to trust in the top of your deck.
taking a look at Mengucci's hand, though, you know, he was mana screwed earlier this game, and
Yeah.
he has a Bounding Crisis, Reflector Mage, a Tireless Tracker, and a Collected Company that Jon had a choice of.
He just drew a second Evolving Wilds to follow up this Tireless Tracker.
Once again, assembling the mini combo.
Wow. Yeah, these are the crucial turns. Mengu top deck, Evolving Wilds, and now game on.
And he's going to get 2 clues out of the exchange.
Yeah, you see Jon with his head in his hands. That was not a good sequence, and he knows too. I mean, it's particularly frustrating for Jon that, like, I looked at your hand, you did not have either of those Evolving Wilds on turn 3.
He knows exactly the draw steps that have happened since then. And he was trying to sculpt the plan based on that, right?
Of
He
course.
was trying to sculpt the plan based on the fact that Andrea just didn't have those lands, and now he's going to be able to collect Company.
Yeah, I think Jon also a little annoyed. He had the grasp. He could have sort of main phase killed Tireless Tracker, but he let it go to Andrea's turn, and then it was because he knew Andrea had no land in his hand, but one came off the top.
And Evolving Wilds at that. So here comes, this is Renewal. Will help him gain some life and get some lands out of his deck.
And the thinning is real with this card too. I mean, normally you think fetch land doesn't really change your odds of drawing business, but take 3 lands out of your deck.
Yeah, 3 lands is significant. And the life buys him time. And that's the thing that Jon needs right now too.
And the mana is what lets him do things like looping Seasons Past, you know, Seasons Past, and then also doing things. It's a really clever engine that these guys built. Jon described it as vintage Reed plus vintage Huey. With a little bit of Cuneo thrown in.
Players are just fixing the deck. It looks like a little card slipped out.
Yeah.
So Collected Company, let's see what Andrea Mengucci can find.
No big deal.
A Nissa and a Sylvan Advocate.
Just these.
Those are pretty good hits. He also gets a land. And we went from him being, you know, short on lands at the beginning of this game to him making every single land drop this game.
Yeah, and Jon with that duress, he left the Collected Company because he wanted to take the negate versus a mana screwed opponent. 2 lands off the top has just fueled everything.
Prairie Stream is the draw for Andrea. Yeah, now these creatures are starting getting in.
Yeah. Yeah, Jon's going to need to draw some action. Some answers anyway, immediately.
And Andrea's found Ojutai's Command, by the way. Sorry.
Whoa.
Yeah. So any creature that Jon can try to play here, it's not resolving anytime soon. Looks like Read the Bones for Jon Finkel. Should hopefully help him sculpt the plan. 2 lands off the top is not what he wants. So he's going to bottom them both.
Draws Swamp. And a spell. Is it a Deadweight?
Looks like a Deadweight. It's Kalitas. This is going to meet some permission, it seems. Wow. Ojutai's Command countering Kalitas.
back Sylvan Advocate.
And this is bad news for Jon.
Yes.
Currently in his hand, we just have a swamp and a deadweight.
No Kalatas for you. How about a second Sylvan Advocate for me? And Andrea can see, Jon doesn't have mana left to languish, so he's going to get the ability to play.
Oh, and Andrea smells
a sixth
blood,
land.
blood in the water.
Yeah, he's holding the sixth land in his hand, too. I don't think Jon Finkel's going to be winning Pro Tour number 4 this weekend. Have to settle for 3 wins, 16 top 8s, plus a couple junior top 8s.
I heard a great quote from, I think Owen tweeted this out yesterday. They were talking to Jon and they were asking him what top 8, PT top 8 number this was. And they're like, is it 16? He's like, it might be 16. I'm not sure. When you have that many, I guess you stop counting. Deadweight taking down that Nissa, a land for Jon, and now no cards in hand. Andrea Mengucci gets to untap and has both.
Oh, there's the land.
Wow. There's the land. Those Sylvan Advocates are getting in for a lot. That Lumbering Falls is huge.
Yep.
One draw step, Jon, and there's the hand extension. Andrea Mengucci moves on to the semifinals over Jon Finkel. Bant Company still trying to make a run.
Deck looks great. Jon played it great. Always a pleasure to watch him play Magic. But you know what? I enjoyed watching Andrea Mengucci play Magic there, too. He played that great and thoroughly earned his spot in the semis across from Shota.
After watching those decks play, too, I think I understand why they think the matchup was so bad.
Fair. Yeah, it's not a good matchup. I mean, the question was, is it terrible or is it just kind of, it's not that good?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough because if the plan is to just continue recurring things,
right,
and you have no ability to recur anything, then what does your deck do? You're just gaining some life and getting some lands out of your deck? That's it? Seems not excellent. You know, in one set you have, Sphinx's Revelation, and the other one you have not a lot. So tough matchup, but we have awesome Magic lined up for you guys.
We have Bant Company back up to 25% of the field.
Yeah. Let's send it over to Rich over at the news desk.
Thanks, Gabby. Thanks, Randy. Great stuff there over in the feature match area, and our first 2 quarterfinals are done. Brian David Marshall is with us, and the man, the myth, the tournament machine that is Luis Scott-Vargas is with us. So, Luis, I think the order is congratulations on making the top 8, commiserations on losing in the quarterfinals. Thanks on behalf of all the viewers for joining us on coverage. I think that's the trilogy pretty much.
Yeah, I'm actually glad to be here on coverage. I mean, I'd rather be playing in the tournament, I'm not going to lie, but love doing coverage too, so I'm happy to bring what I can.
Well, my run sheet tells us that we're about to review quarterfinals 1 and 2, and BDM, I don't know if you think you might have some special insight into the first 2 quarterfinals. Maybe we should get Luis to
I'll
input.
defer on the first quarterfinal.
All right,
Luis.
so let's take a look at the bracket. As we came in this morning, we'll show you the top 8. Remember that our next 2 quarterfinals will be coming up in just a little bit for you, around about 10 minutes from now. But we're going to begin by looking at our top 8, and there you see it. So we began with a quarterfinal 1, which was Luis Scott-Vargas with the black-green Aristocrats deck against Shota Yasooka. And as you'll see in just a moment, it was 3-1 to the Japanese Hall of Famer. 1 Hall of Famer departs, 1 moves on. And then at the top of the bracket is the 1 seed v the 8 seed. This was Jon Finkel with Seasons Past control against the Bant Company deck of Andrea Mengucci. And as we've just seen, it's the young Italian who advances for a Bant Company Esper Dragons semi-final matchup. So, all right then, Luis, first things first, let's not sugarcoat it. That wasn't meant to be an easy matchup, was it, for you?
No. My teammates tested it last night. I watched a couple games and just immediately went to bed. I'm like, yeah, you guys can handle this. But it's a tough matchup. Game 1 is tough. He's got Languish, a lot of spot removal spells that kill Nantuko Husk specifically, and then it just gets worse after board. He brings in Kalidas and Deadweight, and Kalidas, of course, is just the best card in the format against our deck. So, I was hoping to maybe squeak out like a 3-2, but it wasn't meant to be.
Watching from just beyond the rail, Matt Nass looked like he'd been electrocuted at the end of game 3, because there was a point there where it really did look like that game was yours.
Yeah, so game 3, I was losing the entire game. Like, I was just every exchange was bad for me. But I had Westphal Abbey out, and if I was able to get to 5 creatures, despite being down 6 or 7 cards, you know, Ormondal, he's going to come in, attack for 9. Shota does not have that many ways to deal with it. So if I had drawn any creature that cost, like, I think 1 or 2 mana on the last turn, then I would have been able to get there. But it wasn't a guaranteed win, even if I did, and I unfortunately did not.
Is there something kind of difficult about playing Shota when he's playing a deck that most people would play very slowly and deliberately, and the fact that he plays those control decks almost like an aggro deck?
Oh, I love playing against Shota. We've played a lot of times over the years, and the fact that we can finish a 5-game set in 25 minutes or whatever, it's just awesome. I mean, I like playing quickly. I like that he plays even more quickly than I do, and he does it flawlessly. Shota is amazing to watch, even from the other side of the table. I love doing it.
Well, again, that's quarterfinal 1 done. Shota advances and Luis advances to the news desk. So welcome for that. So then we move on to our second semi-final. This was Jon Finkel, of course, against Andrea Mengucci. And BDM, watching that, it didn't look like an awful lot went right for Jon, and he probably needed some help with the matchup.
Yeah, I had assumed that a lot of the variety of decks we saw in the top 8 were chosen because they were good against Bant Company, but apparently one of the good matchups here for Bant Company in seasons past, I was talking to Kai Buddha last night, and he was like, that was not the 8th seed Jon wanted to see get into the top 8. He felt that was, a pretty poor matchup. But yeah, in the last game, Jon started on 5 cards. I think Mengucci started on 6, and Mengucci was just able to punish him. Mengucci's deck becomes more controlling after sideboard with negates. He has the Ojutai's command, and he was able to just keep Jon from ever gaining a foothold in that game.
Luis, what's your take on the seasons past control deck?
So we actually tested this a bunch. Matt Nass built 2 different black-green decks that did a bunch of nonsense, and one of them was the looping of Dark Petition and Seasons Past. That's a really cool interaction where you tutor for Seasons Past, get back Dark Petition, goes to the bottom, Seasons Past goes to the bottom of your deck, and you do that over and over again, getting back 3 or 4 other cards at once. And so we tried a bunch of different cards around that shell and never got to a point where we're like, yeah, this is the deck we want to play. We did want to play it, but it didn't feel like a deck we should play. And the Pantheon list looks a lot more tuned. They spent a lot more time on it. So it is tough against Bant Company, though, as BDM said. It is not... Having the most played deck be your worst matchup is not something I'm like looking forward to, but if you think your other matchups are good enough, it can be worth it.
I'm sure it's a deck that a ton of people are virtually sleeving up on Magic Online and actually sleeving up for real-life Magic. Is it a deck that you think is going to be well-positioned moving forward, or is that a deck that did exactly what it was meant to do for these 3 days, and if you start playing it at your Friday Night Magic, you're going to play 3 out of 5 Bant Company decks and be in trouble?
The good thing about the Black-Green Seasons Past deck is that you get to tune it however you want. You can change the removal spells, you can add more card draw, more duresses. There's a lot of things you can do to make it better against whatever you expect. But if Bant Company continues to reign supreme, then maybe it's going to be problematic.
Yeah, we saw a Sultai version of that deck somewhere out on the floor.
Gregor Kowalski was Sultai mid-range, the Polish player who finished in the top 10. Yeah.
So there's I think there's a lot of room. Maybe you can get Painful Truths in there if you go into a 3-color version.
Well, one of the locks we found against Bant that was great was Revealing Winds, the fog that prevents all combat damage. If you can fog every turn with Dark Petition, Seasons Past, Revealing Winds. We looked for every standard legal fog. I talked to Pantheon. I bet you guys did the same thing. They're like, yeah, there just aren't very many, and it costs 3 mana.
All right, so that's the first 2 quarterfinals, but it's time to turn our attention now to quarterfinals 3 and 4. Let's take a look at the bracket and show you what's coming your way in just a few minutes here, live from Madrid in Spain. It's going to be Brad Nelson of the United States with his red-green goggles ramp deck. He's up against Steve Rubin with green-white tokens, and then Seth Manfield with Esper Control will be against Luis Salvato with red-white Eldrazi goggles. So why don't we start? Let's take a look at Brad Nelson. There you see him, the 29-year-old, joined Team Eureka. And BDM, what a transformation taking Brad Nelson onto Team Eureka. He was a huge winner from that mid-season trade, if you will.
Yeah, coming into this Pro Tour, Team Blitz broke up. And that seemed to be a good move for all parties involved because 3 of those players are in our top 8 on different teams. Brad Nelson, one of them, he said that working with Team Eureka, this was the most prepared he ever felt for the limited portion of a Pro Tour. First time he 3-0'd a draft pot at a Pro Tour in half a decade.
I won't take any offense to that. He has 2 PT top 8s with Team Channel Fireball, and I will not counter his argument. He did seem very prepared for the limited portion.
All right, so why don't we see what Brad Nelson is bringing to the party. This is the red-green goggles ramp deck. There you see it, and Luis, what is going on? What is Pyromancer's goggles? What's all that about?
So Pyromancer's goggles, you cost 5, taps for red, but it doubles any red spell you cast with that mana. And there's a couple things you want to do when you're playing goggles. You want to have a lot of 1-mana spells, so you can go turn 5 goggles, play Fiery Impulse or Magmatic Insight. You also have things like Fall of the Titans, which if you play another spell first, ideally a 1-mana spell, then you Surge Fall of the Titans. Like, I played against Brad, and he did 9 to me and 9 to one of my creatures off Fall of the Titans. And then it doubled, so it was 18-18. It's a lot of powerful spells, and then there's also the whole ramp shell of Worldbreaker and Kozilek's Return and Chandra. So it's a very innovative deck.
Pyromancer's Goggles also really exciting with Tormenting Voice and Magmatic Insight in terms of just pawing at big chunks of your deck with that card.
What this deck does is it solves a lot of Ramp's fundamental problems. One of Ramp's problems is it draws too few Ramp spells or too many. This, between Insights and Tormenting Voices, sees a lot more cards than the average Ramp deck, and it has mini combos like discarding Drownyard Temple. Brad accelerated to 6 off Drownyard Temple without even playing any other Ramp spells. Turn 2 Voice, turn 3 get back Drownyard Temple, turn 4 Voice, get back another Drownyard Temple.
Wow.
Outstanding stuff. So what can Steve Rubin do about that? Let's introduce him to you now. 24-year-old Steve Rubin here, playing in his first Pro Tour top 8, got 3 Grand Prix top 8s, 8-1-1 in Constructed from Team Face-to-Face Games. What's he running? Well, he's playing green-white tokens. Let's take a look at his deck list for you. There you see it. Nissa, Gideon, and 4 of Archangel Avacyn. BDM, what's going on with the green-white tokens deck?
I mean, it is what it says it is, right? It's making a lot of creatures. It's maybe cashing those creatures in with an evolutionary leap in the mid game, and protecting them with Archangel Avacyn.
Luis, it seems like Sylvan Advocate is a card that's done an awful lot of work this weekend for a lot of people.
Sylvan Advocate's just one of the best 2-drops in the format. It's a 2-drop that's relevant on turn 2, right? You play it against a white weenie deck, and you get to block their 2/1s. And then on turn 6, all of a sudden it becomes a 4/5. Sometimes you have creature lands that it buffs 2, and just all of that together for just 2 mana is definitely worth it.
Looking at this matchup, green-white tokens against the red-green goggles ramp, Brad favored?
My assumption would be that Brad is favored. He's got a lot of sweepers and a bigger endgame, and Steve's deck is very well set up to grind out a lot of normal control decks, but the ramp decks, they go up all the way over the top, and Steve's deck isn't super aggressive.
Although talking to Steve and the face-to-face guys, they were like kind of surprised down the stretch of day 2. They're like, wait, we had the best performing deck in the standard field. Their green-white tokens deck just put up the best numbers. So they were really surprised and pleased with that. And so, he's done very well against the field, and it is a very versatile deck.
So Nelson against Rubin, that'll be on one side of our feature match area, and at the same time will be quarterfinal 4. Let's show you the bracket once again, and we will have Seth Manfield, the reigning world champion, number 2 ranked player in the world. He will be up against Luis Salvato of Argentina. So this is Esper Control against red-white Eldrazi goggles. Let's take a look at Seth Manfield's career to date, and there you see him. He is looking good in that picture, and he is really rededicated himself not only to the game, but to himself, and he's put in a lot of work to get himself together mentally and physically, and is looking good. East-West Bowl 25, over $100,000 lifetime earnings. Of course, he is the reigning Magic the Gathering World Champion and our number 2 ranked player. What is he bringing to battle? Esper Control. And, well, this is my kind of deck. Let's take a look at what he's bringing. So, what's going on here, Byron David Marshall?
0 creatures. This deck is winning with Planeswalkers. I was talking to Andrew Brown, who was the, sort of took the lead on designing this deck, and he's like, you really don't even have to show your opponent how you're going to win. Sometimes they just slump and give up as you just have this overwhelming board position, card advantage, and you're just grinding them out. Eventually, you just win with a Planeswalker.
All right, so let's take a look at Luis Salvato, the Argentinian, the Super Sunday Series champion, the winner of that. This is his first Pro Tour top 8. I know a lot of people in Argentina will be very excited, and so too will be the 24 teammates on Deck's army. 25 players, 9 countries. There's the deck. You see, Luis, what's going on with this?
You see a lot of the overlaps with Brad's deck because, again, once you add Pyromancer's Goggles, you're looking for these cards like Fiery Temper that cost 1 mana, or Fiery Impulse, rather. And in this case, Lightning Axe is the other addition, which combines with Fiery Temper for a lot of red burn spells, killing a lot of creatures. If you look at these deck lists, it's very clear that Bant and aggressive white decks are really on people's radar. That's what these decks are built to beat. This deck's got a lot of other cool interactions, like Thought-Knot Seer with Eldrazi Displacer. You can keep messing with their hand. You can keep blinking Goblin Dark Dwellers to recast the spells that you cast earlier. And it's got the Chandra high end and, again, Fall of the Titans. So it's kind of like a hybrid red-white mid-range control deck that's got a bunch of different combos, and they all just kind of fit nicely in the same deck.
Well, we'll see how many of those bunch of combos that fit in the same deck we get live on camera. It is time for quarterfinals 3 and 4. Here comes Nelson and Rubin and Manfield and Salvato.